You've been told to be yourself, but what if the version of yourself you're living right now isn't the one you were born to be? What if the real you, the one who's bold, confident, unstoppable, is waiting on the other side of your fear? Listen, the world doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Opportunity doesn't knock politely, it slams on your door once and moves on. Fake it until you make it isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's about stepping into the energy, the mindset, the habits of who you must become. Every great leader, every game changer you admire once stood where you are, unsure, nervous, doubting themselves, but they acted as if they already belonged in the room. They walked like it, talked like it, lived like it, until their actions made it true. And when that moment comes, when you've made it, when you've earned it, you don't fake it anymore, you own it. You embody it, you are it. So today is not about faking confidence, it's about creating it. It's about collapsing the gap between who you are and who you're destined to become, starting now. Act like your future self is watching, because in a way it is. Every move you make, every word you speak, every decision you take is shaping the person you're becoming. Most people drift through life reacting to their circumstances, but the few who rise above average operate from vision, not memory. They don't act according to who they are now, they act according to who they're becoming. When you imagine your future self, the one who's confident, disciplined, successful, fulfilled, you have a mirror into your potential. The secret is to stop waiting for that version to appear and start behaving as if that person already exists. When a man acts as if his future self is watching, he stops chasing validation. He no longer needs applause to move forward. He understands that leadership starts when no one is watching, when he makes choices aligned with his purpose, not his emotions. He becomes intentional with his words, sharp with his focus, and stronger in his integrity. He trains himself to show up as the man he wants his family, his friends, his team to follow, not the one who's comfortable, but the one who's capable. That man wakes up earlier, thinks deeper, and commits harder because he knows every decision today builds the foundation of the man he must become tomorrow. When a woman acts as if her future self is watching, she stops doubting her worth. She no longer waits for permission to shine. She realizes that her confidence isn't arrogance, it's alignment with who she truly is. She walks into rooms not hoping to be accepted, but knowing she has something valuable to offer. She stops minimizing herself to make others comfortable. Her posture changes, her tone deepens, her energy becomes magnetic. She steps into her future identity. The powerful, composed, visionary woman who leads with both strength and grace. Every action she takes today becomes a declaration that she is worthy of the life she envisions. You see, most people think they'll become confident after they succeed, but that's not how it works. Confidence is the byproduct of alignment, of acting before the evidence shows up. You don't wait until you're fit to start training, you start training to become fit. You don't wait until you're wealthy to make disciplined financial choices, you make disciplined choices to become wealthy. Acting like your future self isn't pretending, it's practicing. It's mentally rehearsing the version of you that has already made it and letting that identity pull you forward every single day. When you live this way, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You make decisions not based on how you feel, but on who you've decided to be. You stop saying someday and start saying now. Every time you choose courage over comfort, consistency over convenience, discipline over doubt, your future self watches with gratitude. Because the truth is, the person you're becoming is already counting on you to show up like it's already done. Confidence isn't found, it's built. Too many people are waiting to stumble upon confidence like it's hidden somewhere outside of them, when in reality, it's something forged through motion, repetition, and risk. Confidence doesn't arrive wrapped in certainty, it's constructed through moments of uncertainty. You can't think your way into it, you must act your way into it. Every time you step into the unknown, every time you face fear and refuse to back down, you're laying another brick in the foundation of who you're becoming. Confidence is not a feeling that shows up before the action, it's the result of taking action despite the feeling. For men, the illusion of confidence often comes from control, the idea that they must have all the answers, the perfect plan, or unshakable certainty before moving forward. But that belief is the very thing that keeps them stuck. Real confidence for a man is built when he embraces discomfort and moves even when he's unsure. It's born in the silence of discipline, in the moments where no one is cheering, and in the choices that challenge his limits. A man becomes confident when he stops chasing external proof and starts creating internal evidence through his own actions. He doesn't wait for someone to call him strong. He earns that title through consistency. He doesn't need to project toughness to appear confident. His quaint decisiveness becomes the proof. Confidence for him isn't about domination, it's about direction. For women, the path to confidence often begins with unlearning. Society conditions women to be careful, polite, and agreeable, to shrink rather than shine. But true confidence doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from standing fully in who you are without apology. A confident woman doesn't wait for external validation. She builds self-trust one courageous act at a time. She learns that her voice doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. When she speaks her truth, she stops asking, "Am I enough?" and starts declaring, "I am becoming more every day." Her confidence grows not from comparison, but from commitment. The daily decision to show up as her authentic self even when the world underestimates her. Confidence is not something you wake up with, it's something you wake up for. It's built through repetition, the discipline to keep promises to yourself, the courage to take uncomfortable steps, the resilience to rise after falling. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, your mind begins to trust you. That's the real psychology of confidence, self-trust. When you trust your ability to figure things out, you stop hesitating. You stop needing reassurance. You start moving with a sense of grounded certainty because your actions have become your evidence. The truth is, confidence doesn't come from success. Success comes from confidence. You build it through experience, through effort, through falling and rising again. It's built in the grind, not the spotlight, in the small moments where no one is watching but your future self is. Energy first, evidence second. That's the law of transformation most people never understand. They wait for results to feel confident, for proof to feel worthy, for success to feel powerful. But that's not how change works. You don't need evidence to believe in yourself. You need energy, because energy is the signal you send to life that says, I'm ready. Every major breakthrough begins with a shift in energy, not circumstance. Before the money, before the recognition, before the opportunity, there's a moment where you decide to raise your state and embody the version of yourself that already has what you desire. That shift is the ignition. It's not magic, it's momentum. Most people live their lives reacting to their current evidence. They look at their bank account, their relationships, their career, and they let those numbers dictate their mood, their worth, and their belief in what's possible. But the people who rise, the ones who actually make it, reverse the formula. They don't wait for the evidence to feel powerful. They feel powerful first, and then the evidence begins to align. Energy is the cause, results are the effect. When you walk into a room with certainty, when you carry yourself with conviction before the proof exists, people feel it. The universe feels it. And that vibration starts rearranging the opportunities, the people, and the circumstances around you. For men, this principle is a reminder that leadership starts with emotional control. A man who waits for things to be perfect before taking action never builds momentum. The true power lies in mastering your internal energy before the world reflects it back. When a man wakes up and decides to move like a winner, even when his situation screams otherwise, he becomes magnetic. People follow energy, not excuses. His posture changes, his tone changes, his mind sharpens, and suddenly he starts to see possibilities he couldn't see before. When he controls his energy, he stops reacting to the world and starts directing it. He becomes a force, not a follower. He learns that faith isn't blind, it's energetic. For women, energy is the gateway to self-ownership. So many women have been conditioned to wait for external validation before stepping into their power, to prove themselves before they can believe in themselves. But the real shift happens when she realizes that her energy is her evidence. When she chooses to walk into a meeting, a relationship, a dream, with the energy of worthiness, her entire presence transforms. She no longer needs permission to take up space. Her tone carries certainty, her eyes hold purpose, her words move hearts. She begins to understand that when her energy rises, her world rises with it. A confident woman doesn't chase recognition. She radiates alignment, and that energy doesn't just attract success, it commands it. Energy is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. If you only believe after seeing, you'll live your life waiting, but when you learn to believe before seeing, you accelerate everything. It's not about faking positivity, it's about generating a state that matches your vision. You train your body, your mind, your emotions to operate from the identity of the person you're becoming, not the one you're leaving behind. That's why rituals matter. That's why physiology matters. The way you move, breathe, speak, and focus sets the tone for the evidence you'll later create. Your state determines your story. Every great turnaround in life begins when someone decides to raise their energy before they have a reason to. They visualize, they move, they speak as if the goal has already manifested. It's not delusion, it's design, because your brain doesn't respond to what's real, it responds to what's repeated. If you repeatedly broadcast energy of certainty, power, and gratitude, your mind begins to act accordingly. Your emotions shift, your behavior follows. And the evidence, the results, the opportunities, the recognition always come after. The key is to lead with energy, because when you own your energy, you own your destiny. Rehearse greatness daily, because no one stumbles into mastery by accident. Every champion, every leader, every visionary you admire didn't just arrive. They rehearsed the identity of greatness long before the world saw their results. Success is not a single event. It's a pattern, a ritual, a rhythm built through repetition. The mind doesn't rise to your dreams, it falls to your standards. And when you make excellence a daily rehearsal instead of a distant wish, you start living from a higher frequency. You're no longer reacting to life, you're designing it. Every action, every choice, every habit becomes a rehearsal for who you are becoming. For men, this means showing up in discipline even when the motivation fades. The masculine psychology craves challenge. It needs resistance to grow. But too often, men confuse routine with restriction when in truth, repetition is the gateway to freedom. A man who rehearses greatness doesn't wait for perfect conditions. He sharpens his edge every day, knowing consistency is his greatest weapon. He practices patience in chaos, control, and pressure, focus, and noise. Greatness for him is built in the silence and the workouts no one sees, in the hours of preparation when no one's applauding. He learns that every rep, every sacrifice, every small act of self-mastery is a signal to the world that he's coming for more. The more he rehearses, the less he doubts, because his actions have rewritten his identity. For women, rehearsing greatness means owning the stage of life, every day in every role with full conviction. It's about recognizing that preparation isn't weakness, it's empowerment. A powerful woman doesn't wake up confident, she builds it through practice. She rehearses clarity in her decisions, strength in her boundaries, and belief in her vision. Society often teaches women to be humble and stay safe, but those who rise above that conditioning learn that confidence is born in rehearsal. When she prepares her mind each morning through gratitude, visualization, and self-talk, she aligns with her higher self. She starts walking, speaking, and creating like the leader she was meant to be. Her daily rituals are not routines, they are rehearsals of self-worth. Each repetition whispers to her subconscious, you are ready, you belong, you've earned this. Greatness doesn't demand perfection, it demands consistency. The reason most people never experience it is because they rehearse mediocrity instead. They rehearse procrastination, doubt, and distraction until it becomes their normal. But those who live extraordinary lives reverse that pattern. They make greatness a habit. They set clear intentions, visualize their outcomes, and align their emotions before the day begins. They treat every conversation as practice for influence, every challenge as training resilience, and every setback as rehearsal for the comeback. The brain doesn't distinguish between what's imagined and what's real. It responds to repetition. When you visualize and act in alignment with your highest self every day, you're training your nervous system to expect success instead of fear it. Rehearsing greatness daily also means holding yourself accountable to the energy you bring. It's not just about what you do. It's about how you do it. Are you showing up with intensity, presence, and passion, or are you walking through life on autopilot? The greatest performers in every field know that the smallest habits shape the biggest results. They prime their mind every morning, move their body, speak with conviction, and condition their focus. They understand that every day is either a rehearsal for greatness or a rehearsal for mediocrity, and that choice is made moment by moment. When you treat each day as practice for your ultimate self, you stop living by chance and start living by design. The truth is, greatness isn't something you achieve one day, it's something you practice every day. Every thought rehearsed, every action repeated, every standard upheld becomes part of your identity. The question isn't whether you're rehearsing, it's what you're rehearsing. Because the quality of your future depends on the consistency of your present. When you rehearse greatness daily, you stop chasing success and start embodying it. Turn imposter syndrome into fuel, because the feeling that you don't belong is not a sign of weakness, it's a signal of growth. Every time you step into a higher level of challenge, leadership, or visibility, that inner voice of doubt whispers, "Who do you think you are?" But that voice doesn't mean you're unqualified. It means you've entered a new arena. The only people who never feel like imposters are the ones who've stopped growing. The discomfort of imposter syndrome isn't there to push you out, it's there to pull you higher. It's proof that you're expanding beyond your old identity and stepping into a version of yourself that your mind hasn't fully caught up with yet. For men, imposter syndrome often shows up as silent pressure. They may look confident on the outside, but inside they're questioning if they're truly capable or just lucky. The masculine drive to perform, to provide, to lead can turn into a weight that crushes self-trust when he believes he must already have it all figured out. But here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from facing what you don't know and growing through it. A man who turns imposter syndrome into fuel doesn't run from that pressure. He uses it as proof that he's playing in a bigger league. He redefines fear as feedback, reminding himself that discomfort means progress. He learns to channel that tension into preparation, that doubt into discipline, that uncertainty into hunger. Each time he feels like he's faking it, he's actually forging himself into the man who can own it. For women, imposter syndrome often wears the disguise of perfectionism. They overprepare, overdeliver, and overthink because deep down they fear being found out. They've been conditioned to believe that worth must be earned, that confidence must be justified. But the truth is, the moment a woman decides to stop proving herself and starts embodying her power, everything changes. She learns that imposter syndrome is not an enemy, it's a teacher. It's the voice that challenges her to step into her brilliance, not shrink from it. Every time she walks into a room and feels like she doesn't belong, she's being invited to claim her place at the table, not question it. When she channels that energy into courage, preparation, and presence, she transforms doubt into drive. Her fear of being too much becomes the very fire that fuels her greatness. Imposter syndrome is the mind's way of protecting you from failure, but in doing so, it often protects you from growth. The goal isn't to silence it, it's to reframe it. When that voice says, "You're not ready," you answer, "Maybe not, but I'm willing." When it says, "You're not enough," you respond, "I'm becoming more every day." This shift turns fear into focus. It's not about erasing the discomfort, it's about using it to sharpen your edge. The same energy that creates anxiety can be redirected into anticipation. The same doubt that holds you back can become the drive that pushes you forward. The people who achieve greatness don't eliminate imposter syndrome, they learn to dance with it. They understand that it shows up when you're stepping into new territory. That's how you know you're growing. You don't have to wait for the feeling to go away before taking action. You take action while it's there. Because the more you step into discomfort, the quieter that voice becomes. Every new challenge becomes an opportunity to prove, not to the world, but to yourself, that you belong. Imposter syndrome loses its power when you realize it's not a wall, it's a doorway. And on the other side of that doorway is the version of you who no longer needs to fake it because you've earned the right to own it. When you make it, own it with humility and power. Because success isn't just about reaching the top, it's about how you stand once you're there. So many people spend their lives chasing the dream, grinding, building, sacrificing, only to finally make it and start playing small again. They hide their light, afraid of judgment, afraid of seeming arrogant, afraid of losing what they've earned. But true ownership isn't arrogance. It's alignment. It's the moment you stop apologizing for your greatness and start using it to elevate others. Humility doesn't mean you doubt your worth. It means you remember your roots while standing tall in your rise. For men, owning success often carries a silent conflict. Many men are taught to associate power with ego, that confidence automatically means pride. But power without humility is noise, and humility without power is weakness. A man who owns his success the right way understands that real strength is quiet, grounded, and steady. He doesn't need to prove he's made it. His presence speaks for him. He doesn't brag. He builds. He doesn't dominate. He leads. And when he speaks, people listen because his confidence isn't performative. It's earned through discipline, integrity, and persistence. He remembers the days when no one believed in him, and instead of using success to distance himself, he uses it to inspire others to believe in themselves. Owning your success as a man means carrying your victories with gratitude, not guilt, to be proud of what you've built without forgetting why you started. For women, owning success requires breaking a different kind of barrier, the one built by societal conditioning. Women are often taught to minimize their achievements, to soften their brilliance so others feel comfortable. They say, I just got lucky, instead of I worked for this. But a powerful woman knows that humility doesn't mean hiding. When she owns her success, she gives other women permission to rise. She understands that shining her light doesn't dim anyone else's. It expands the space for others to glow too. Her power doesn't come from domination, it comes from authenticity. When she stands tall in her accomplishments, speaks her truth, and honors her worth, she becomes a mirror for what's possible. She learns that owning success is not about boasting, it's about embodying her journey, the pain, the resilience, the relentless effort it took to arrive where she is. Owning your success with humility and power is about alignment, staying connected to both your hunger and your heart. Success without humility turns into entitlement. Humility without ownership turns into self-sabotage. The key is to balance pride with perspective. You remember that you're not here by accident, you worked for this. You endured sleepless nights, rejection, fear, failure, and still showed up. You turned your vision into reality, and that deserves acknowledgement. But you also remember that success is not a finish line. It's a platform, a place to serve, to lead, to create impact. When you stay grateful, your success becomes sustainable. Gratitude keeps you grounded while confidence keeps you growing. The moment you make it is not the time to slow down, it's the time to step up. This is when you redefine what success truly means. You shift from ambition to contribution. You stop chasing validation and start creating value. You own your power, not as something to flaunt, but as something to use. Because the world doesn't need more people who've made it, it needs more people who've made it and still care. When you walk with humility, you stay connected to your humanity. When you stand in your power, you remind others what's possible. And when you blend both, you don't just inspire people to succeed, you inspire them to lead.